Good evening, everybody. Welcome to an evening of culture and heritage with Saint Lucia. My name is Nicole Compton, and I will be your co-host from this evening. I am from the Saint Lucia Tourism Authority. We have an amazing evening planned for you tonight, with some very special guests. We have Jala Mudovic, a sculptor from St. Lucia. We've also got Miss Cornelia Felix, who is a senior chocolatier at Fondue Eco Resort in St. Lucia. We have Andrew Scott and Kieran Howes, who are members of Lucianites Quadrille Group, who are based in the UK. And finally, we have Dr. Morgan Delphinis, a writer and poet from St. Lucia, but also based in the UK. They will be sharing all things culture and heritage with you tonight. We are very proud to also have here with us this evening our host for the evening, OBE award-winning journalist and broadcaster, Miss Brenda Emmanus. I will be handing over to Brenda shortly, and she will be guiding you through the rest of the evening. If anybody is interested in traveling to St. Lucia, we do have a St. Lucia expert on with us today. Her name is April Wilmot, and she'll be in the chat box sharing her details. So if you do have any, if I can just get somebody to mute their mic, sorry. Just before I continue, if I can just ask if everybody mutes their microphones, please, just so we don't get any feedback and we can run smoothly through the evening. Like I was saying, we have a St. Lucia expert called April. She will be in the chat box, available to take your details down or to share her details with you if you'd like to inquire about traveling to St. Lucia. My colleague, Jackie Buchol as well, she will also be in the chat box, answering any questions that you may have throughout the presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to tell you about the history and culture of St. Lucia. St. Lucia was first known as Luanaluhu by the Arawak Indians in 200 AD and was later renamed Hiranora in 800 AD by the Carib Indians. Both Luanaluhu and Hiranora means land of the iguanas. This was due to the population of iguanas in St. Lucia at this time. St. Lucia was colonized by the British and the French during the 17th century, exchanging hands 14 times, 7 times British, 7 times French. The island was then ceded to the British by the French in 1841. Pigeon Island, which is in the northern part of St. Lucia, was used as a navy base when the British were fighting with the French for St. Lucia. And from Fort Rodney, which is named after an Admiral Navy soldier, they were able to see into Martinique, which is where the French were located. Legend states that the French, who were shipwrecked just outside St. Lucia on the 13th of December, which is also the feast day of patron saint St. Lucia Syracuse, they named the island in her honor on this day. St. Lucia is the only country in the world to be named after a woman, which is why St. Lucia's motto is "Let her inspire you." Let this beautiful, lush green woman inspire you to come and visit, and hopefully she will inspire you to inspire your friends to visit us as well. The island became independent on the 22nd of February, 1979. And upon their independence, their first prime minister was the late Sir John Compton. St. Lucia can also be known as the Helen of the West or the Helen of the West Indies. Her culture is influenced by African, East Indian, French, and English culture. She is the home to 2 Nobel laureates, the late Sir Arthur Lewis, who won a Nobel Prize in Economics in 1979, and also the late Sir Derek Walcott, who won a Nobel Prize in Literature in 1992. She's also home to 2 major cultural festivals, which has been going on for many years. The La Rose Festival, which is celebrated on the 30th of August, and also the Marguerite Festival, celebrated on the 17th of October. This celebration is of 2 cultural societies which originated during the times of slavery. The La Rose and the Marguerite is also the national flowers of St. Lucia. St. Lucia is also home to many events and other festivals throughout the year, like the Jazz Festival, St. Lucia Carnival, Chocolate Heritage Month, and also Creole Heritage Month, also known in Creole as Journée Creole. As St. Lucia exchanged hands between the French and the British many times, the culture of the island is mixed between French and English. So English is the main language we speak. However, we do speak broken French, also known as Creole, on island-wide as well. The island has many music influences, from calypso music to soca music, to reggae, to compa, to salsa, folk music, and also country music, country and Western music as well. So that was a brief history and culture of Saint Lucia. I'm now going to share with you some fast facts and some things that makes the island very unique. Saint Lucia is home to a UNESCO World Heritage Site of the Pitons. These are our two volcanic plugs which tower above the Caribbean Sea, Petit Piton and Gros Piton. Gros Piton measures 771 meters above sea level. Petit Piton measures 743 meters above sea level. They make the perfect backdrop for any image and any experience in Saint Lucia. And you can also hike the Pitons as well if you're looking for something a little bit adventurous to do. She's also home to the Caribbean's only drive-through volcano, located on the southern west coast of the island in a town called Soufrière, which is Creole for Sulphur City, hence why, because of the drive-through volcano that we have here. You can also do a sulfuric mud bath in the drive-through volcano, which they say can make you come out looking 10 years younger. So if you're looking for a little bit of an inexpensive spa or something just a little bit different, it's definitely one that we recommend. Saint Lucia's national flag was designed by a painter and muralist called Sir Dunstan St. Omar. The motto of the island is "the land, the people, the light," which is also depicted in parts of the flag as well. The blue in the flag symbolizes the crystal clear waters of the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, and also the tropical sky which tower above the island. The yellow represents the sunshine, and the black and the white represents the multicultural people that we have in Saint Lucia, the multicultural races. And finally, the triangles are symbolic of our twin peaks and our UNESCO heritage site of the Pitons. The national bird of Saint Lucia is the Saint Lucian parrot, or the Saint Lucian Amazon, or the Jaco parrot, also known as the Amazona versicolor. We have over 188 species of birds in Saint Lucia as of May 2020, and 5 endemic bird species. Saint Lucia is the perfect place for bird watchers. So if you are interested in birding, or you'd like to learn a little bit more about birding, then it's definitely a place we would recommend you visit. The calabash tree and the bamboo are the national trees. It is a national tree and a national plant of the island. The calabash tree produces a large round fruit with a thin hard shell, which can be used to make cutlery such as bowls, cups, spoons, etc., which traditionally the Creoles would use during those times. During those times. The bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants in the world and is the largest member of the grass family, which can also be found around the island. The national dress of Saint Lucia is called the madras, or the jipe. It consists of 5 pieces, which was traditionally worn by French settlers during the battles of the French and the British. You will be seeing an example later on. National dish of Saint Lucia is green fig and saltfish, also known as green bananas and salted cod. Saint Lucian cuisine is a mixture of West Indian produce mixed with Creole cooking techniques, a touch of French flair, some British imports, and a pinch of African and Indian spices, all combined together to make the delicious food that you can find on island. Saint Lucia is more than just your typical sun, sea, and sand destination. As you can see from the history and the culture, the island has quite a lot of depth to it. We have a range of things to do. I'm going to just show you a few cultural things to do that we have available on island. The first is taking a trip down to our local market, which is located in the capital, Saint Lucia, Castries, where you can purchase some local produce, buy some local spices, and also some souvenirs that you can take home as well. You can also learn to make chocolate in Saint Lucia. We do have a rich history in cocoa plantation and chocolate making. You will be hearing from Fondue Eco Resort later on, who will tell you how they produce chocolate in Saint Lucia. And also Hotel Chocolat, they do have a boutique resort on island as well, where they can also offer a bean to bar experience. You can try one of our many rum tours on Ireland, where you can learn all about how rum is produced in Saint Lucia and the various different options of rum that we offer as well. In this image here, you can see the gentleman is using a calabash, which has been dried and carved in as a bowl for his alcoholic beverage. Pigeon Island National Park, as I mentioned before, is a monumental park which is home to military ruins from the battles between the French and the English. Pigeon Island was actually joined to Saint Lucia in 1972 by a man-made causeway, and in 1979 it was then named the National Park of the island. There you can still see some of the original ruins, the cannons, the houses, and it's also a home to many of our events, our cultural events, jazz festival, carnival, etc. A cultural food tour that you can do in Saint Lucia is a visit to Fort Latissab, where you can learn all about the food that we can produce in Saint Lucia. You can see traditional demonstrations of old-time cooking and also sample some traditional foods such as cassava bread. If you are into art, a trip to Saint Lucia is not complete without visiting one of our many art studios. This is the art studio of a sculptor, Sir Vincent Ludovic. We are delighted to have his son, Jalan Ludovic, here with us this evening, who has followed in his father's footsteps, and he will be telling you about his work and his accomplishments as a sculptor. If you're into adventure and you like getting out and about, the island offers various different excursions, which not only shows you the beauty of the island, but you get to see old working plantations, as the one you can see in the image here, are also abandoned bunkers which were left behind after the war as well. Our Segway tours and our mountain biking tours are two examples of tours where you get to see old artifacts which are still dotted around the island. Saint Lucia has a range of festivals and events, as I mentioned in the beginning. We have our famous jazz festival, which typically takes place in May of every year. We also have Saint Lucia Carnival, which typically takes place in July of every year. And finally, in October, we celebrate Creole Heritage Month, which is a celebration of that French and Creole heritage that we once had. With all the things to do and the history and culture behind Saint Lucia, we have an abundance of properties available for you to stay in Saint Lucia. Some properties which really leans themselves quite well within the cultural aspects are, the first one is Ballenbush Estate, located on the southwest coast. This estate is 60 acres of an old working sugar plantation. And as you can see from the image, some of the guest house has been restored, but it still hosts some of the natural, the original artifacts and structure. Ladera Resort is another example. This was once part of the Rabo Estate, but it now sits within the UNESCO Heritage Site, and it's the oldest cocoa plantation on island. Ladera, as you can see from the image, uses a lot of natural wood, which is found around the property, and they also use a local carver to make the pieces for their property. Tête Rouge is a small boutique property. Tête Rouge in Creole means red head, and the name was given to the resort because of the red roofs on the little cottages which surrounded which is located on the property. This again is another example of an accommodation which is really leans itself towards that cultural side, being able to learn a little bit more about the island. Tikai Resort and Spa is another property which Tikai in Creole means little house. So the properties consist of many different small cottages around the island, and a lot of everything on this property is very Creole orientated. They have an outdoor shower like 100 years ago. The rooms of all the properties are all Creole names, from days of the week to months to numbers. Their spa is called the Cocoa Spa, which is the coconut house, and everything they use in the spa is coconut infused. I'm now going to show you a short video which will hopefully summarize everything that I've just talked about and set the scene for the rest of the evening for you. visit St. Lucia, and I also hope the rest of the evening we will inspire you as well to want to enjoy and learn a little bit more about the culture of the island. So now, without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to your host for this evening, Miss Brenda Emmanus.
Thank you very much, Nicole, and welcome everyone. Thank you very much for giving up your evenings to join us. And I'm sure, judging by that extensive introduction from the lovely Nicole, you are not disappointed. I'm sure, having seen that film and heard what Nicole's already shared with us, you want to go off and book your tickets up to St. Lucia already. But do stay with us at least for the next hour, because I'm sure by the time we finish with you, you'll be booking for a year, not just for 2 weeks, when we are free from lockdown. Hallelujah. Because as Nicole has made it clear, and as we've already been illustrated to us all, St. Lucia is more than just a beach and sunshine experience. It's absolutely packed full of arts and heritage and culture, which can guarantee you your stay there will be a memorable one. Bring your pictures, bring your memories, and just bring yourself, and you feel free. I am a Londoner, admittedly, but I see myself also as 100% St. Lucian, because both my parents came from the island, and so I've been going from as a child and fallen in love. I've been truly passionate love affair with the island, and every time I go, it's always a very, very different experience for me. And maybe because my job as a broadcaster and journalist, at the last 20 years, it's been particularly in arts, culture, and entertainment. So the arts and heritage of culture of St. Lucia is something I've grown to appreciate. The more I go, the more times I spend there. And every time I've been, it's been a different experience. It's always something to learn, something to experience, something new to eat, a new flavored chocolate, a new artist to learn about. It really is a place that if you're into arts and culture, and it seems like many of you are, because I think we've had 4 sessions and this has been the most popular thus far. You've come to the right place to spend your last hour. Forget soap operas, forget whatever you've got on Sky Plus. This is the place to be for the next half an hour or so. And if you stay with us, I can guarantee you a little bit of fun at the end, and also the possibility of winning a prize. But before all of that, we have some amazing experts which are going to share their experience and tell you a little bit about more, just to give you a further, deeper insight into the island. Now, we are talking about arts, culture, and heritage this evening. Last week it was romance. Next week we give you a wonderful culinary experience. So do note those in your diary to continue joining us for the next 2 weeks. So if we're going to start with arts and culture, why not start with one of the most esteemed artists on the island? He was already introduced to you by Nicole. He is the son of a great carver on the island, so one of the most renowned artists on the island. He himself has already built himself a hugely respected international reputation. So without further ado, can I introduce you to Jalim Yudovic? Jalim, over to you.
Hi, good night, good day, good evening, depending on what part of the world you are. Good evening to my Londoners and my people from the UK, and good afternoon to my people from the Caribbean. Pleased to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, please, Jalim. Tell us about your history and your evolution as an artist.
Well, I grew up in a very dynamic environment in Saint Lucia, which is the art studio, which is owned by my father and operated by my family, my mom, my dad, my siblings, maybe the last of them. So it was a family affair. So I was born into this rich environment, this rich, amazing environment where everybody converged, the likes of, literary giants like Derek Walcott, Sir and Omar, people like Leroy Clark from Trinidad and Tobago, and people who came from far afield. When they came to Saint Lucia and wanted to see creativity, they came to the studio. And it wasn't only a visual art studio, but it was also culinary arts as well, because my family ran a restaurant, and we opened our doors to aficionados like Bo Hinkson and Rufo Forswa, which are very big names in Saint Lucia in the musical realm. So my upbringing was very much influenced by all genres of art. And at some point, I found myself in, I did poetry, I did theater, I did painting, I dabbled with sculpture, which was my father's mainstay. But eventually, I decided to settle on sculpture because it was so predominant in my environment. And I fell in love with wooden sculpture, specifically because of what wood is, the fragrance, the tactile nature of wood, the organic feel of it, and all that. And eventually, in my adolescent life, I became very curious with the medium bronze and marble, and these quote unquote foreign materials which could stand the weather and stand the harsh conditions that the Caribbean throws at you in terms of sun and rain. And so I eventually gravitated towards these mediums. So right now I'm well versed in bronze, in marble. I do sculpture from anything, even fabric sculpture too. So I've traveled widely. I've done quite a bit of work in China. I still don't know how this happened. It was just serendipity, if you want to call it that, or providence even. But but somehow someone from China saw my work on the internet, and I got an invitation to propose for a sculpture park in China in 2008. And but the catch was the sculpture had to be bronze. And at that time, I didn't know anything about bronze. So I sort of cheated that whole process and told them that I'm an expert bronze sculptor, right? I bought this book on Amazon called From Clay to Bronze. I read it on the plane, and when I landed, voila, I was dabbling in bronze. And 7 bronze monumental sculpture commissions later, I'm still doing these public sculpture works around China. And also in various parts of the world. I created the National Monument for Saint Lucia in 2019, which stands in waterfront castries. It's called All In. It's a sculpture which celebrates our multiculturalism and speaks to our ethos as a society and where we want to go, into the future, working together and connectivity and fraternity and all these wonderful things that we need to embody as a country to progress. So this is what I do. I translate the ethos of my culture, of my society, and I tell very important stories to the world through my work.
Are there you mentioned some of them, but are there particular themes that inspire you as well as materials?
I found myself, evolving. Before, I was very much interested in landscape and just, nature, because it's a very difficult in the Caribbean. It's like you live inside of a painting. So, as an artist, your senses are overwhelmed and bombarded all the time. This incredible lights with shapes and forms and shadows and scents and just the brilliant weather of it all. Like 2 seconds ago, birds were chirping out of my window. Now it's raining. Then the sun is going to come out just now. So it's that immediacy and that rapidity of environmental splendor, that's what I was caught up in at first. But then as I started to look to the wider world and realize that, that I belong to a diaspora with a specific history, for a particular history, I wanted my work to become more political and speak to, to the history of my people, where we came from and how to project ourselves into the future, because the Caribbean is sort of like the gateway to the world. We are the Western Hemisphere, but where we position, we have connectivity to all the continents, really. And we are people who were created from many people, from many peoples. So, I've put a lot of focus into that part of the history into my work. So I just contributed a few pieces to the Miami art movement, which is the Afrofuturism movement, which is a very important movement now for Blacks in the diaspora. How we project ourselves into the future and how we dream. How do we put ourselves, how do we we visualize ourselves 50 years from now. So I'm very interested in this. I took part in a Black Lives Movement exhibition in Miami as well. So my work has become more entrenched in these issues. But I still vacillate. I still do the three things. The things that make me smile, put a joy in my heart, and so on. And so so I'm not sure if I can characterize my work as one thing or the other, but I do what my spirit tells me to do. I'm true to that.
I mean, we could talk to you for hours because you are so interesting and your work is so absolutely brilliant. But I think you're being slightly humble in that you're come from a small yet beautiful island. You have built yourself an international reputation. One of your commissions in China, for example, you had to beat over 1,500 artists from 54 countries to win that commission. Just how important is it to you to fly the flag for Saint Lucia in that way?
Let me tell you, there's no greater validation than when a society that is not yours gives such a big opportunity to project yourself in their country. And I was taking on Chinese films. China is going through a renaissance right now.
Now, I don't know if you have it or not, but did you have a short video, a presentation of your work that you could show us? Yeah, here it is.
I'm Jeremy Dubik, and welcome to my middle and renaissance happening in China. And the Lucas Street. Come along with me. Now you're inside my studio, newly built. This is my personal space where I conceptualize and I create all my sculptures. This is the sort of like the wall of fame or the wall of markets. All these pieces here, which are constructed in foam, marble, and bronze, are all miniatures of much larger pieces. Most of them are miniatures of larger pieces, and some of them are miniatures of works that I would like to realize into monumental sculptures one day, anywhere in the world. This piece right there, it was a maquette. It's a maquette for the National Monument, National Independence Monument for Saint Lucia. It's called All In, and it represents four figures, the four ethnic groups of Saint Lucia: the Amerindians, the East Indians, the Africans, and the Caucasians. All working together in unity because we are a cosmopolitan society. This piece right here is a piece I did for China. And for a park in a city called Chongqing, and now this piece is about 3 meters tall, the bigger one in China. This one, I did this one for an automotive park in China, and it celebrates the car. It's called Play Car. This is the miniature. It's a symbol of the vehicle, but it's also two child figures somersaulting. This one is my longest sculpture thus far. The monumental version of it is about 9 meters long, and it's called People of the Sea. It symbolizes the Chinese dragon and the fluid movement of the ancient Chinese silk, because it had to embody all these elements of Chinese society. This one is called How to Fly, and it's sort of the evolutionary chart of progress. First you must crawl, then you must stand, then you must walk, then you must run, and then you must, in order to fly, to take flight. This piece is called Circle of Life, and this was done for a park in China. And this park celebrates speaks to the environment, environmental degradation, and the world, and so on. So this piece was about reducing the carbon footprint and the effects of pollution on our planet. And it also symbolizes the symbol which means on and off, because we have to turn on our consciousness to the environment in order to reverse the current mode of events. This piece was the other piece I did for China. It's called Mother and Child, or rather Mother River and Child. It symbolizes a traditional figure of a woman with a bucket on her head, with a child behind her. So it's about prioritizing the balance of family life and work. Over here you have my more contemporary block pieces, which I exhibit in, I've exhibited in Miami, London, and also New York. These pieces are made of one piece of wood, all carved out. So even this ribbon here is carved out from one solid block of wood. So it looks like it's been attached to this block of wood, but it's actually carved out from one block. And all these pieces here are the same kind of technique, where I carve out these seemingly found objects onto the wood, and I apply paint. And they make statements on our society, they make statements on the world. Some of them are very provocatively themed. This one is called Tanto Tanto, which in our Creole language means one day you shall see. This is the handwork section of the studio. This is where I create all my pieces by hand. But this is a collection I'm working on now called Good and Good. And it's about the coming of age, the coming of maturity. It's about love and life, portrayed in a little tweet story of this girl who found this egg. This egg was, lost, found by this little girl who was keeping around forest one day. She took the egg home and it hatched into a little chick. And in this frame, she's nurturing the chick, and it has grown quite a bit. And this frame, you see like the bond starting to form. The girl and the bird is developing this relationship, this love relationship. And in this frame, she's mature, and the bird has also blossomed into a more mature bird. But if you realize their ambitions are now separate. She's human being, so she's concerned with things of the land, and the bird is concerned with things of the sky. And in this frame, they are going in separate ways. She's letting the bird go. So this series is about love and life. It's called Girl and Bird. This is my studio, and you're having the first look of it, so my pleasure and my honor to show you around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaleem. I think the pleasure and the honor was ours. Your work is absolutely incredible. Thank you very much for sharing your talent with us and enlightening our visitors. We have people here from London, from Birmingham, from Bournemouth, from Germany, from all over the world. Even Saint Lucians have tapped in to this session this evening. So thank you very much for sharing. Now, I'm sure, I promise you, I will be visiting next time I come over, and I'm saving every penny to make sure I can buy a piece and bring back. I will make space on my shelf just for your work, just to be one of your stalker fans. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Now we will have to move on because we have an absolutely packed evening for you. And as well as the ability to visit Jaleem's studio and experience the work of this great man, there are venues from hotels to restaurants that also pay homage to the great culture and heritage that you can find in Saint Lucia. One of them being the Anne Chastanet resort, eco resort. So we just got a very short video just to give you an insight of the resort itself and the way it pays tribute to arts and culture on the island. somebody who got married in Saint Lucia just wrote on the chat, "Oh, to be in Saint Lucia right now." And I think all of us here share that sentiment. I hope we're doing enough just to tempt you to get back there when we can. That day will come, I promise you. But as well as the artists and the culture and the heritage, which we've boasted about so brilliantly thus far, St. Lucia has something that they're equally proud of, which may surprise some of you, and that is chocolate. And there are certain places on the island where you can have the experience of our beautiful chocolate made from produce on the island in St. Lucia, one of them being the Fondue Eco Resort on the island. Now, to tell you a bit more about it is a renowned chocolatier, Miss Cornelia Judy Felix, who will enlighten us and whet our taste buds and have us reach in for that milky bar that's sitting in the fridge right now. Over to you, Cornelia Felix.
There we go. Unmute. Why is the volume? Oh, okay. So participants, these are, you can see me, these are all, let's scroll, how many people? So oh, Ural, check Ural. Olive Girls.
Hi, could everybody unmute? Sorry, mute themselves. And Brenda, we can't hear the speaker.
Can't see you.
Brenda, you're on mute.
Oh, that's better.
There we are. I think we're just, Cornelia's just trying to unmute herself. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
There we are. We have her. We have liftoff, people. Thanks for being patient.
Sorry about that.
That's technology for you.
Sorry.
I'm used to that right now. Over to you, Cornelia. Seduce us with your chocolate talk, please.
Okay, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Cornelia. I'm from the community of Ravino in Choiseul. Well, I've been employed at Fondue Resort for 18 years now, and I'm the senior chocolatier of this resort. Okay, I did my schooling in primary and secondary education between the schools in Choiseul and Soufrière, and I have two beautiful daughters. I think that's basically it. Okay, and with the tour, what I do is that on a day-to-day basis, I'll get my cocoa beans, sort them out, and roast it afterwards. After the roasting process is done, I'll then grind it into a small blender, and then you process it through a machine, a chocolate machine. It stays for a period of 24 hours. And then the next day it's hand tempered, put into your molds to form your chocolate bar. And then these are the chocolate bar. This chocolate is called Judy's chocolate since after I've been working in Fondue for 18 years. This chocolate, Judy's milk chocolate, has been named after me here, like photo on here. And then we also have these ones. This is also a milk chocolate. We also do the dark ones, dark large chocolate, and the small ones. And these chocolates are available at our sister company in Soufrière. And also, very soon they'll be sold island-wide on the island. That's about it. I think that's about it.
So I thought it was a real big deal to get an OBE, but I think to have a chocolate named after you is even more special.
Yes.
How exciting was that?
Well, I am very excited. I'm honored to get this chocolate named after me.
Now we have a video, I believe, showing you at work and the chocolate experience that's available at Fondue. Should we show that first?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Welcome to Place Caco. This right here is a ripe cocoa pod. I'm going to break it open and show you what the inside looks like. Inside are white slummy beans, also known as jungle M&Ms. These beans, after they're fermented, is brought down to the chocolate lab, where I'm going to run through with you to show you how the chocolate process is being going through in here. After the beans are fermented, like I said, it's brought to the chocolate lab, and we start sorting out the beans by hand, one by one, to remove the good beans from the bad ones. These ones have been sorted out, so these are considered to be good, and the bad ones. After this is done, the beans are placed into the roaster, where it has to be roasted for 40 to 45 minutes. Then when the roasting is completed, it's placed onto the cooling rack, where it has to be cooled off. Next step is that you take the beans, place them into the hand grinder, and you start grinding the beans. After the grinding of the cocoa beans, the vacuum is put on and the beans have to be cleaned off. The shell is lighter, so it falls into the plastic, and the bits of cocoa or the leaves falls into the tree. And then the beans are grinded very fine. Put this here. And then you use the cocoa butter. If it's melted, add your cocoa powder and also your sugar to make the 70% or the milk chocolate bars right here. Sits for 24 hours and then it's hand tempered the following day to make our chocolate bars. After the chocolate has been set, it is removed from the fridge and then it's hand wrapped nicely. And also the Judy's milk chocolate, which was named after me, it is available at Aeroline Supermarket in Soufrière, and also will be available island-wide very soon.
That is cool, so cool. There's a lot of work that goes into making a bar of chocolate. I think that gives us a deeper appreciation of what it takes. Now, you've been there about 4 years now. Are you also involved in, for someone who likes chocolate like me, the exciting thing is always trying a new flavor. How involved are you in that? And what flavors are on point at present? What's popular?
Well, at present, we only have the Judy's milk chocolate, like I just showed, and we have the dark chocolates. This one has milk in there, and this is just the dark chocolates. Okay, the Judy's milk. So these are only the two flavors that we have right now.
And if you visit as a tourist, do you actually get the chance to make the chocolate there?
Yes, you can. We also have tours available. If anybody wants to do the chocolate making tour, they can book it through the office, and then they have a chance in making the chocolate bars, and they live with the chocolate bars.
Now, most people, when they come to the Caribbean island, the first thing they head to experience is the taste of rum. Is rum more popular still than chocolate?
Yeah. But...
And any chance of making a rum flavored chocolate bar for us when we come over? If we give you a password, all of us have a chocolate bar.
Yes, that can be organized. That can be done. But with the chocolate processing, we have to have the advance notice, because it goes through a process of 24 hours. So you have to know.
Thank you very much, Courtney. If anyone wants to find out more about Fondue and obviously the Cordelia when they get there, I'm sure that the Tourism Association will be able to fill you in, and we'll have some links so that you can contact. As soon as you land off that plane, you know where to head. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I remember as a child, one of the things that my parents felt was really important is not only do I just see Saint Lucia as a really nice place with a really nice beach, that I get involved in the culture. So while over here, I had to learn to dance and as well as eat the food and try Saturday soup and eat the green, we used to call it fig and fish, which is what you saw, the salt fish and the green bananas. You had to take part into dance. You couldn't be a Lucian and not dance. And more importantly, traditional dance. It wasn't the discos from Pam's people on top of the pops, or watching the hip hop dancers that I used to watch in American videos. No. You had to put on your costume and get involved. So I've learned to appreciate a lot about the traditional dance, and it's beautiful, not just because of the moves and the tradition and the history, but the costumes and everything that goes into it. So I'd like to introduce you now to Andrew Scott and Kieran Howes from Ansler Ray Quadrille Dancers, who will tell you a bit more about the whole tradition of quadrille. Where I think I can dance and show you, I think they can explain it far better than me. So over to you guys.
Yes, hello everyone, and good evening. My name is Andrew Scott, and I am a member of the Lucianites dance troupe, and we are based in London, here in the UK. Just to tell you a little about myself, I grew up in Saint Lucia. I attended primary and secondary school in Saint Lucia, also tertiary. I attended Teachers College in Saint Lucia as well. And when I was a student at the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School, way back in 1978, my form tutor was a well-known personality, unfortunately now deceased, called Mrs. Teresa Hall. And she formed a quadrille dance troupe at the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School, and I became a member. And I learned the traditional dances back then, and we performed all over the island whenever there was need for a performance. About 5 years later, I was asked to join a group of educators who were very concerned about the dying art form of the quadrille in St. Lucia. So we formed a quadrille group, and I was a founder member of a group called Les Danseurs Traditionnels de Saint Lucie. And our aim was to promote the traditional dances and also to preserve it and to pass it on to the younger generation. So we used workshops for school children all over the island, and we established an annual quadrille competition, which became very popular. It was very competitive, and all secondary schools were competing with each other to win the prize. Later, we also tried to promote the playing of musical instruments because we really wanted the quadrille to be sustained. So for a few years, we had like a quadrille music competition where we were encouraging quadrille bands to become established. But back to the dancing part. I loved the quadrille so much that in 2001, when I migrated to the UK, I went in search of a quadrille group, and I searched all over London and eventually bumped into Kieran, who will be sharing a bit of our quadrille dancing and our quadrille heritage with us in a short while. So I bumped into her, and I learned that there was a group called the Lucianites. And so I became a member of this group, the Lucianites.
Right. Good evening. I'm Kieran Howes. I'm one of the members of the Lucianites. Now, Andrew has said quite a lot about it in his earlier on. So what I will do now is show you one of our costumes, which is our national dress, and the Lucianites perform in this costume. So I will just, so what Andrew will do is he will tell you a little bit about the national dress of St. Lucia. Can you say it?
Yes. So Kieran is now wearing what is called the jip or the madras, and it is the national or Creole dress and has its origins in pre-emancipation days, when on feast days and holidays, African women would depart from donning the dreary uniform of livre that slaves were provided and would adorn themselves in bright finery purchased from the proceeds of their small garden allotments. The jip is sometimes called the madras because of the fabric used to make it. Now, the madras is a traditional Saint Lucian costume comprising 5 pieces. I repeat, it's a traditional Saint Lucian costume comprising 5 pieces. It consists of a white cotton blouse and an ankle-length petticoat called a jupon, trimmed with lace and red ribbon. The most characteristic feature of this costume, however, is the madras material used to make the short outer skirt and accompanying headpiece. The madras headpiece is designed out of a square piece cut for this purpose. Worn over the forehead, it is creatively folded with peaks extending from the base. The headpiece may be tied up into 4 peaks, with the number of peaks signifying the availability of the woman for courtship. And I will share these with you. So when there is 1 peak, the woman is saying that she is single. And when there are 2 peaks, she is saying that she is married. With 3 peaks, she is saying, I am widowed or divorced. And when there are 4 peaks, she is actually indicating that she will accept anyone who tries. So to complete the costume, a triangular satin scarf is pinned on the left shoulder with the apex over the elbow and the 2 ends tucked beneath the skirt's waistline. So we are now going to show you an example of a performance by the Lucianites. Thank you.
Brenda, you're just on mute.
I should know better, shouldn't I? Thank you very much, Kieran and Andrew. That was really insightful. And you were far more graceful than I ever was when I attempted it. I love that story about the 4 peaks. I think it's a better method of dating than Tinder or Match.com. So you'll see a lot of people in London running around with their 4-peaked hats or their 1-peaked hats and lying, perhaps. But that was really genuinely insightful. What was really progressive about it was also you saw women playing male part. And is that quite progressive? Is that something that you can do? You can choose which role you want to play, Andrew?
Well, the honest truth is,
shortage of men.
It says a lot about the level of commitment between the sexes. Yes, the men have more difficulty committing to rehearsing regularly because we don't just perform, we have to rehearse before we perform. And if you don't rehearse, you can't perform.
And where do you perform here?
Well,
yes. Over to you, Kieran.
Yes. We've been, as Andrew said, we've been doing this since the 90s. So like one of the oldest member is in her 90s.
Wow.
And we are so committed to doing it. And as Andrew said, I think the ladies are more committed than the men.
Oh, we've got more stamina.
More stamina and more committed. Normally we meet every other Tuesday in Wood Green at the West Indian Cultural Center. As it is after COVID, no one knows what's going to happen, but we're still committed to dancing. We've been dancing for we've danced abroad. We've danced in Amsterdam, Germany, Toronto, St. Croix, and we've danced at many events in London and in England.
And I can only assume that you're equally committed to preserving the tradition. Andrew, is much being done on the island to preserve it and encourage young people to take part so that it continues?
Yes, absolutely. And right now, St. Lucia is in a much better place culturally because of the seeds that were grown back then when I learned how to dance the quadrille and the way how we were able to promote the quadrille competitions. We now have new generations of young people who really embrace all aspects of our culture. And it is well known now that if you go to any social gathering, when quadrille is played, young as well as old people will join in like any other dance genre. So it is very popular, it is picking up. And I think that the seeds that were grown back then has borne some very positive fruit for the island culturally.
And where on the island would you suggest that tourists that come that think they really would love to see some of this actually in situ, where would you encourage them to go?
Well, all hotels on the island try to showcase our culture, and most performing groups on the island would perform at most of the islands, at most of the hotels, excuse me, around the island. And I'm happy that you asked this because one of the things I did when I performed with Les Danseurs Traditionnels de Saint Lucia is that whenever we performed, there was always a part of our performance where there was what we called guest participation, where we would actually go among the guests, invite them onto the dance floor, and actually show them how to do a dance we call the Gouan. And the Gouan means grand circle. So we will have this dance where we dance around with them and we exchange partners, and we would dance again and exchange partners and dance. So everyone would get a chance to dance with a different partner. And from experience, I can tell you that the tourists always enjoy it.
No, I can well imagine. I know you've made me tempted to go and look for. I don't know why I've put my costume. I probably wouldn't even fit in it now because I've eaten so much St. Lucian chocolate. So I probably can't fit in it. But thank you so much for sharing your experience and your passion for the quadrille. I think it's addictive. I think you'll see more people trying it, trying to experience it in some way or form. And definitely on the island of St. Lucia, they can do that. So thank you. Now, one of the other things that's so amazing, as well as the art and the quadrille, which we've talked about, when you walk through the island, whether through the market or on the streets, as well as hearing a lovely English accent with a twist, there is this beautiful, beautiful sound of a French Creole that is traditional to the island, which we refer to as patois, or which was referred to tonight as Creole. And I remember as a child going there and being desperate to understand what people were saying. So my first visit was with my aunt, which I was really not looking forward to. I was young, I wanted to be at home. I didn't want to go to anywhere where I didn't know anyone, but I went and fell in love immediately, as I said at the beginning of this session. But I wanted to learn the language, and I was determined to come home in what I thought was fluent. So at the age, I think it was about 7, I came home and be able to say "Stakafet," which means "How are you?" and when which for those of you who know, it means I had a great time in Saint Lucia. My mother nearly dropped, and from then on, I think I won her respect. So I've learned to be a bit more fluent. I understand more than I can speak fluent. I'm always slightly embarrassed because I think my Cockney accent comes out when I try to speak patois, and they know I'm not a local. But I will always try, because I think A, it's respectful, B, I don't want to lose the tradition. So we thought it'd be fun, A, to enlighten you about the language, and we have a genuine expert to do that. And after that, we'll have a little bit of fun. So may I hand you over to the more than capable hands of a Creole language and a bit of history from Dr. Morgan Dalphinus.
Okay. Bonsoir, bon après-midi. Good evening to us here, and good afternoon to those in St. Lucia. What I'll be just outlining briefly is a history and language of St. Lucia from 1654 to 1915, the topic of my book that you can get in Amazon. Basically, the history starts with the Arawak and Carib, who were from South America and then moved on to the island of St. Lucia. Within the Creole, you get some of their words, such as lébiché, a sponge, agouti, which is like a kind of rabbit, chebe, to hold and to seize, and other words to do with the flora and fauna. The next group in were the French people, bringing with them Africans dominantly from Senegambia, as the governorship of St. Lucia was decided by the same people who ruled Senegal, Senegambia at the time. So it was convenient for them to bring Africans from there initially. They then moved along the coast and brought in other Africans from Dahomey and Congo. With them, you get a number of individual words, such as nenen, auntie from Dahomey, molokoi, meaning lazy from Congo, and the dominant remnant vocabulary is from French. The Africans brought there by the French ran into the hills and formed maroons, or separate kinds of living, to plantation society. However, later on, when the British took over St. Lucia, they brought in Africans from the basically the areas around Nigeria, dominantly the Igbo group, as well as people from Ghana, the Akan group. So you may hear somebody talk about Beche, meaning white people. That is an Igbo word. You may also hear people talk about Wum, meaning a cold, which is the same word in Twi in Ghana. As well as having these maroon groups in St. Lucia, these maroon groups were joined by people sympathetic to the French Revolution in St. Lucia. So in 1791, the Maroons plus the sympathizers of the French Revolution took over the whole of St. Lucian society. As a consequence of that, they set up a guillotine, certainly in Soufrière, and took off the heads of some of the planters. However, this was changed by British invasion in 1796. At the end of slavery in St. Lucia in 1840, all of the planters were thinking about where they would get labor. So they got a number of people coming from the Indian subcontinent, and hence a number of words and foods in St. Lucia, such as roti. The other groups of people that were brought into St. Lucia, funnily enough, were indentured laborers from Sierra Leone. What is interesting is that both those groups, both the Asian group and the Sierra Leonean group, began to follow St. Lucian habits, and they also ran into the hills away from then not plantation society, but indigenous kind of employers. In order to get more about that history, you should go to the Monsignor Patrick Anthony Folk Research Center in Castries, as well as the National Archive Center in Castries as well. And there you would get a far deeper analysis, including some original documents about the development of history in St. Lucia. With that history, although I told you you got some words from Africa and the dominant number of words from French, the rulers, you then had got a number of grammatical items which are strictly Senegambian. So that when you say ka, meaning you're in the process of doing something, you're really using Mandinka ka, so that if you said in Mandinka, I understand, you'd say mka moi. So this same ka is the one we use in St. Lucia. You'll probably find that some of the words are in a different order to what you'd expect. So you'd be thinking of la femme based on French, but in St. Lucia, we'd say femme. If you go into Mandinka and Wolof, it's the same word order. So girl in Wolof would be sungut or girl the. Now, with this rich grammar of African languages and European words, we founded a deep culture with all of the things that you've heard about already, and also some beautiful songs. One of our great singers, Cécenne, is one you can hear if you go on YouTube, singing brilliant songs, Mama Ela di Wai, Mama Ela Mwedi Wai, and other songs rich in this particular language culture. What I want to introduce you to are just a list of words that you may find useful. So if we could unmute just for a little while, I'll ask you to repeat a number of phrases. So let's start with the one that we heard there from Brenda.
Don't be shy, everybody. Unmute. Let's all do this together.
Okay.
Sakafet.
Sakafet.
Sakafet. Sakafet.
All the Lucians are talking now.
So what you're saying is, how are you? Or if you like in Black American speech, what's happening? Sakafet. If somebody shouts at you, Sakafet. How? Now, as well as that, you'll be in the market and you want to know how much something costs. So what I want you to say is, ça c'est combien?
Ça c'est combien?
Asking, how much is this? Okay. By the time you've finished in the market and you've enjoyed the mangoes, you've enjoyed the coconut water, you may want an odd banana, you're thinking, oh, it's time to go home. So you may then say, bonjour,
Bonjour.
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 You, that's what I said.
Bien dit, well said. Meaning good day. And by then you may be thinking of going home for lunch. So you would then say, bon après-midi.
Bon après-midi.
Bon après-midi.
Bon après-midi.
Bien dit. So, well said. So you're saying good afternoon. And lastly, after you've had the rum and that little calabash, I assure you, depending on the rum, you may just want to go to your bed. So what you're going to say is, bonsoir.
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 Cornelia, dis bonsoir.
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 Bonsoir. Marcia Innocent, dis bonsoir. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
I will, it sounds like I need a rum. And enjoy yourself in St. Lucia, and who knows, you may see me there. So what you will then say is, my well.
My well.
Well.
My well.
My well.
Okay. Merci. Vous savez, bon Saint-Lucien.
Merci aussi.
Okay.
Merci Oshai.
Merci.
I'm taking some rum.
Merci.
Tout le monde qui parle de
Sonia, that finished.
Yeah.
So I assume we've now finished our lesson. Did you have fun? I hope that was brilliant. Thank you very much, Morgan Delphinis.
Merci à Pim.
Thank you.
Tout bagay. Right, I really hope you enjoyed that. And I want to thank you all for staying with us to the end. You've learned something, you've seen things, you've got the smell of chocolate, you know, you've seen the amazing artwork that we have to offer on the island. I'm tomorrow or tonight, you know where to start thinking about when you're booking your ticket. But because you've been so grand and you stayed with us, we have a treat for you. We have prizes. We have, I believe, some chocolate from the Hotel Chocolat and maybe some rum to share with you all, just as a way of saying merci for staying with us till the end of the session. So I would like to hand back to Nicole, who will take us through this fun part. Are you with us still, lady?
Yes. Voila. Thank you, Brenda. I've also learned a couple of words. I myself, I was actually born in Saint Lucia, but I grew up in the UK. And during the time when I was born, Patois was something that the older generation would speak, and we weren't allowed to learn it. So I would hear it but not be able to repeat it. So I actually learned a few words as well myself this evening. So thank you, Morgan. So before we head on to the prizes part of the evening, I've just got a short video to show you from Fondue Eco Resort, just to give you an idea of the resort as another accommodation option that you can choose if you're heading to Saint Lucia. to travel to St. Lucia. Now we have some great prizes for you this evening. And so we hope that you've been paying attention, listening, because we've got a couple of questions to test your knowledge on some of the stuff that we've inspired you with today. So what we will do is I will go ahead and ask a question in a moment. And the first person to put the right answer in the chat box, I've got my judges and my co-hosts able to assist me. So the first person to put their answer in the chat box will be the winner, and we'll be going ahead and sending your prize out for you within the next week or so. So question number 1, this is for an A5 print of a painting by a local artist in Saint Lucia, which will be framed for you as well. The question is, in what year did Saint Lucia become independent from the British?
Oh, Vera is off the mark. Yes, she's
well done.
With
Vera Wakeford.
1979. Well done, Vera.
Perfect. Thank you. Congratulations, Vera. Okie dokie. We're also giving away another A5 print of this painting by this local St. Lucian artist. And the second question is, what is the name of the piece which Jalin produced for St. Lucia's 40th year of independence? I'll repeat, what is the name of the piece that Jalin produced for St. Lucia's 40th year of independence?
Close, Adam. Oh, Tara's got it. Tara Filbert, well done.
Well
All
done,
in.
Tara. The answer is all in. Congratulations. You guys have been paying attention. Well done. So the next prize is for a box of Hotel Chocolat chocolates. We would love to give you some fondue chocolates, but unfortunately, we're with the lockdown, we're unable to get them in the UK at the moment. But we definitely know if you're heading to St. Lucia, just definitely reach out to us, and Cornelia will have a couple of chocolate bars waiting for you. So for a box of Hotel Chocolat chocolates, question number 3 is, what is the name of the resort where Cornelia works, where she is a senior chocolate? Oh, I had someone who said it, but we're looking for the quickest answer in the chat and somebody who has not already won a prize.
And it is, let's see.
It is, I believe, Yuri.
Yes, correct, Euro.
Yes. Euro, you are the winner of a box of Hotel Chocolat chocolates. So we have one more prize to go, and that is for another box of Hotel Chocolat chocolates. And the final question is, so everybody get your fingers at your keypads. The question is, how many pieces does the Madras costume consist of? Oh, I haven't even finished.
Oh, wow. They anticipated the question. I think that was Adam.
Well done, Adam. Congratulations. That box of Hotel Chocolat chocolates will be on its way to you. We will reach out to all of you, everybody who's won via email, to get your details, and we will post that out to you. So I'm now going to hand over to Brenda, who's going to do the closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Adam answered that faster than Aita Bar. That was incredible. I just want to say thank you so much to all of you for staying with us. You've been truly engaged. We've had fun, so I hope you have. I will bet my life on it that you have been seduced by St. Lucia just simply for the arts and culture. We do have, I saw someone in the chat asking whether there were other sessions. There are indeed. Next week, we're going to give you a culinary experience. So do join us for that. And there'll be one after that also. So any other information you need, the St. Lucian Tourism Association are at your service. To fill you in whatever you need to know. There were some wonderful questions. There's been some wonderful engagement. So tout le monde, au revoir. Au revoir. Bonsoir. Morgan Delphinis, you have the voice of an actor. Let's hope you take up acting now. But now you've written your book and you're sealed with us. Plus tard, tout le monde. Enjoy Cole. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
Bonsoir.
Take care. Bonsoir.
Nukaiwe Plita.
Bye.